which is 187 South Champlain Street, right, Scott?
Correct.
And do we have the applicant here?
We do.
Who do we have for the applicant?
I bet it's Max from Parks.
Max, this is on a consent agenda item, which means that we wouldn't hold a public hearing. Has the applicant seen the recommended staff's findings and approvals?
Yes, I have.
Any issue with them?
No, I have no issue with them.
Is there anybody on the board who has any questions or concerns? Anybody? No, not you all. Nobody online, Scott?
We have some folks online, but I bet they're not here for this item, but.
Alright, well, if
you
anyone's
are-
online to speak on 187 South Champlain Street, could you raise your hand?
Who's raising your hand?
Right, seeing none, I would move that we approve ZP 2451 187 South Champlain Street. Second that. We had Chase first. All those in favor? All right. Good luck.
Great, thank you so much.
So the next item on our agenda is 75 Briggs Street. Meraki Realty Holdings, Andrea Charis, reapplication, proposed construction of new health club planning and community center and related site improvements. We have the applicant here. Join us up there. Come on up to it.
So AJ, just briefly, I posted a couple new items today that we received from the applicant since the staff report. One was the TDM plan that looks to pass muster. And the other was a revised landscaping plan that removes the 3 trees that were sort of in question along Briggs Street. Wasn't quite sure what the upshot was there. So maybe you could clarify that with the board tonight. The only outstanding item, at least from the staff report, at this point looks to be whether the project's gonna be phased or not. The original project was gonna be phase 1 and 2, phase 2, I think it's gonna be basically the Briggs Street stuff. I raised that as a question, whether you're gonna do that again or just do it as one.
I think one.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So including anyone online who wants to speak on this application, to raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is true and correct under the pains and penalties of perjury? Yes. All right, so if you would just introduce yourselves. We saw this before in 2018, I think, and we approved it. And we're glad to see it back. Let me quickly just ask you to summarize, because there's some new board members, I remember it very well. Summarize what the project is and sort of what you're looking to do, and then start with it.
Sure. First off, I am Stephen Charest. I am the co-owner of Petroglyphs Climbing Center and Mountaineering School, Charest Alpinism, and Meraki, which is all of our different organizations, holding and liabilities, things of that nature.
I'm Andrea Charest, Petroglyphs and Meraki names.
I'm Susan Kader, the architect for the Charest and Petroglyphs, and we've been working together for quite some time on this. So
And-
anyway, happy to be back.
Yeah, and the quick summary of it is a indoor climbing center and mountaineering school. Our current facility is at 105 Briggs Street, and it's a 6,000 square foot warehouse with about 20 something foot tall walls. And basically, we're trying to modernize and basically join what is the modern revolution of climbing gyms. So new one is a little over 13,000 square feet, 51 feet tall, and basically just increasing a lot of our square footage. Also having areas for training and more health club and yoga studios, as well as kind of a couple of different things that we've kind of looked at, including exploring some different things that, like, for example, we had a test well just recently drilled for geothermal and exploring solar and trying to make the whole building actually off the grid.
We can get into that. I know that was a question in here too, that we didn't have any plans yet for sustainable renewable energy.
Okay.
We do.
On the scope of the project, what's different? That includes the locker design of the building? What's different between what we saw in 2018 and now? If anything.
Sure. What's different is, so the entryway with the hands on it, with the logo on it. It's like a triangular shape and it used to be, facing the other way. So it was pretty subtle, change, I think. But we don't have a before picture of the renderings, but yeah, that piece in the front used to sort of open up in the opposite direction. Looking at it again after the project was inactive for a little while, the Shress and their business manager felt that it made a lot more sense or it was a more welcoming entrance to have the wide end of that facing the parking area. And we made sure that our sort of street presence on Briggs Street stayed similar and prominent. So that was the big move. The small things were, another big thing is that the parkway construction happened. And so we had things.
Sort of happened.
That's why Petra 105 Briggs Street is where it is.
Yeah, and so after a resurvey of that portion of the property, there was some landscape and parking lot changes that needed to happen just to create alignment. We had to recheck the radius of a bunch of curves in there because the street is so narrow and the turn is a different mechanic. So some pretty small things like that. And then some things that have come along as technology has evolved. So some electric vehicle chargers that we're proposing to be added. It looks as if we can get to net zero with a geothermal heating and cooling system. And we have worked with an energy model with our mechanical engineers to fine tune the building envelope to make sure that that's optimized. Likewise, there's a solar array proposed for the roof of the large volume, the blue big climbing area. And that I think is to be determined whether that would be a leased scenario or an owned scenario by Petroclips. But so the pieces are there to hopefully get to net zero. And we've been working quite closely with Burlington Electric Department. What else has changed? I think that just about summarizes the changes. So it's just, sort of some of the geometry in the front and the landscape adapting to the new street location.
More bike parking.
More bike parking, point spots.
How about the internal use? Still the same expected number of people, except the number of programmatically the same.
Yeah,
Yes, in fact, yeah, we slightly changed the climbing walls, but that was actually just to get more square footage of climbing to accommodate more people if needed.
we created one thing that's probably not relevant here, but as culture has changed, there's a shared gender neutral bathroom instead of two gendered bathrooms. So that's probably the most significant change to the interior. It doesn't change the outside, it's outside at all.
Yeah, the bathrooms then have floor to ceiling doors and separation, showers have their own doors and sections. So
A
that you can
little,
still get privacy if needed, otherwise it is gender neutral.
So I wanted to just talk about the site plan a little bit, this parking lot, your proposed parking lot doesn't connect. Wait, go back to also that first image that you just had up to two questions. So your parking lot doesn't connect to the city parking lot,
That is correct.
and you don't have any easement or rights to do.
it was discussion for a while.
Yeah, I remember that.
Decided between both that
Wasn't gonna make sense. Okay. And in that orientation, are we looking at it from Briggs Street?
You're standing on Briggs Street in that orientation.
And so I'm standing on Briggs Street and City Market would be behind the blue building?
Would be to the right of the building.
And the existing warehouse that's on that corner stays now?
Would stay, yep, and it's, that would be left of everything of this parking lot that you start seeing the edge of.
That would still be in use.
As of right now, it's just simply a storage of different things for the building, and then once all of a sudden this gets done, that would be something that we will kind of figure out what is plan B for it. whether it be more training space or if we want to figure out how to do a lease or something else, but that's right now, it's just storage and additional space for Petra.
Not programmed now. Scott, can I ask you some questions about traffic quickly?
Sure.
So, I saw in your staff report a note that the Flynn and Parkway intersection was from LOS to F based on 37 PM peak hour trip generations. Right?
Yep.
That seems relatively sensitive at that intersection. Was that, did we look at that intersection back in 2018 with Public Works or not?
Yes. The staff, the traffic analysis that I uploaded is what was provided for the original application. At that point, obviously, the parkway hadn't started construction as of this point. In checking it with Public Works, at risk of passing the buck, I said, hey, do you guys have any additional comments? They said, no, nothing additional, but we still want to keep the condition about having traffic impact fees available for a 5-year span, which is basically something we do in the accounting. And also putting up money for construction of the sidewalk along Briggs, which hasn't been built. But to your primary point, AJ, I think if you look at the whole of that traffic analysis, it basically contemplates improved level of service upon completion of parkway projects. Like we're not a completion, but start.
So the LOS that's reported, is that under a completed Parkway project or not?
I think it's without the parkway. That's not right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's without.
So that's not projecting what that signal is, so we may be. And is that gonna have a traffic signal at it, Flynn and Parkway? Yeah, it's got a
I
traffic.
think so. I guess I wouldn't swear to it.
I drive by it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's traffic like right now, it's not functioning yet, but yes.
Okay, well, there you go.
I mean, I drive by it every day. So, it might be, hopefully. it won't. So, okay, and then you go, Jeff.
We approved the project with this memo previously.
Yes.
And there's no change.
Expectation.
I do read the memo as saying that it takes into consideration the construction of the
Okay,
project. So I don't know if that means it takes into consideration the fact that there's going to be construction or if
Yeah.
it assumes.
Last time we had a meeting with them previously, one of their requests was, can you wait till it's done? So we did.
There we go.
my choice. It's the hard.
I mean, if we've approved it previously, I know this is not coming to us as an application.
Yeah.
It's further, but be hard pressed to say no now.
Right, particularly because it's also because the thing is, the parkway is built, it's designed as a traffic mitigation alleviation measure. And given the expected volumes, I can't imagine the 37 PM peak trips, which I have a question for you, is actually material in terms of percent DLA volumes of that roadway. You know, like it's supposed to take traffic up Pine, what's the Pine Flynn intersection volume? Thousands of cars in and out.
Well,
And also, I'm somewhat familiar with Petra's operations. I should disclose, my wife used to be a member.
Yeah.
And so to the board, she's not biased, she's no longer a member. User should know. You guys don't, PM, weekday PM is not typically your busiest time.
Typically actually is, so
Okay.
weekends and then depending on seasonality. For example, summer camp, we have 50 kids in summer camps currently per, Monday to Friday. And so that means that there's a large load, at least in the morning at the 8 AM and then the 5 PM. And then for our normal day-to-day operations, the busiest would be 5 to 10.
Oh, okay. Probably is actually after PM. That section.
The PM peak is typically between 4 and 6 PM.
Yeah, it's like 3:30 to 4:30.
It's the top 60 minutes from that time span.
Stop, which is something about sidewalks, and I see there's a sidewalk there crossing the city market.
Well, there's a walkway within the private property.
Yep, so that's the private property, that's our sidewalk that we will connect to the existing city market parking lot.
Which is not on the public right of way,
Correct, and
it's just good nature.
there'll be questions of where that new sidewalk on Briggs Street will go eventually, but that's not.
So pedestrians could walk down that sidewalk that's on City Market and get to your front door. And then the walk that you have at the edge of the parking lot ends in the grass right now.
Correct.
But the idea is if there is another sidewalk, you would connect.
Would connect down to it, yep.
But they didn't want a crosswalk there. Or
Yeah.
anything, so yeah, that's why it kind of.
Maybe
It doesn't lead you into the street.
Public Works, the prior project had a crosswalk extending from that now dead end walkway. Public Works requested, don't do that until we figure out what we're doing with the public sidewalk.
So I mean, there's definitely a colloquial sidewalk on the city market parking. They're proposing to build one that lines up with the city market. And we would still ask them to contribute to a second adjacent sidewalk on Briggs Street.
That was. Yes, that's the request.
We don't know where that's gonna go.
Well, I mean, it's noted on the site plan where it's gonna go, but.
The Briggs Street one?
Yeah.
Sidewalk.
You kind of got to squint, but it's there.
Okay.
And that was DPW's request, I mean,
Correct.
we approved
Yep.
it previously with that.
Yeah, I know.
It's still proposed as a condition.
But then they built Briggs Street. They've rebuilt it, built the sidewalks, so I'm confused by that in general.
Yeah, there was a lot of,
There's not space for it is the issue.
That seems to be sort of a permanent problem, doesn't it?
we spoke with,
And it's not necessarily at City Market or at 75. Moment you get beyond our properties with two private properties
Yeah.
and 105 Briggs Street where current petroglyphs is, there is not space for said sidewalk.
Suppose I should ask, are you keeping 105? Is there a connection between this new facility and that one?
Nope, this was one of those famous stories of tried to buy the building and
Joe Handy told us.
Joe Handy told us no. So we said, all right, we'll find a new building, and we literally were looking all over.
Yeah.
Chittenden County, and City Market happened to make all of this align to.
So we'll vacate our lease and open doors at 75, close at 105, deconstruct the walls at 105. Deconstruct.
Deconstruct the 105, yeah, demolition. Some of it will become art. Hence the petroglyphs at petroglyphs.
So Scott asked the question about phasing. Figured you'd get an opportunity. Sure, specifically what he meant, but maybe you understood.
Yeah, I can't remember, it must have been trees which couldn't be put in until the parkway was complete. So I think the phase 2 had to do with the completion of the parkway and
Phase 2,
now
definitely.
it would be one.
Like, phase 1 was most of it, phase 2 was basically the stuff that really needed parkway improvements.
Yes,
So, I mean, it's your call, you don't have to phase it in, I'm hearing from you that you want to do one phase. That's fine.
So it would just be one build.
I'll mention that we had quite a lot of conversation with Caleb Mana. And about that sidewalk. And the upshot was that there really is not, he doesn't know where to go. We also spoke with BJ about the trees. Future trees, so because we were indicating those future trees at one point. And so he really didn't know where the sidewalk would go, or the trees and their overhead lines, sort of preventing trees from going where you might think they would be. So my takeaway was that I wonder when that sidewalk would ever come around, because it seems like there's just some spatial constraints.
But at this point, people will have a way to walk from the new bike path across the crosswalk at City Market and walk up and connect sidewalks.
So I don't know if I'm out of line by saying this, but if anybody is willing to offer some of the escrow money for them to construct the sidewalk, you know, right now, we're looking at it in two forms, whether it's a stone dust path or whether it's an actual concrete sidewalk. Your private walkway. So I'll just say that.
So we won't have to maintain it.
Yeah.
Questions from the board?
I have a question. Probably more for staff, just looking at the signs and how I was reading the regulation on wall signs. I thought that wall signs could not be higher than the floor on the second floor. Am I reading that wrong?
Can't be higher than the floor, the second floor. Are you reading that right? I can pull that plan up again.
But so on the plans, it looks like it starts at higher than the floor.
So
That's the first document.
this is okay.
Right.
So the primary structure here is a single story, right?
Mhm.
And this is also single. Is this one or two in here?
That's 2-story, the lobby is 2 stories.
Yeah. So there's a little gray area, Caitlin, so I guess this is why it's in front of the board. But sometimes we have very tall, single-story buildings, and this is one. So the primary structure has a single story and it exceeds the height of the wall sign, so I thought it was okay. I think visually it looks okay under the design standard in Article 6, but you know, it's your call, it's the board.
Well, there's a mezzanine and a second floor. So, right, so that white section is the start of the second floor. Technically,
The
right?
setback part,
Setback,
yeah.
but there is a mezzanine between the first floor.
It's a
and
first
second
floor mezzanine, and
It's
the
a structure.
second floor is kind of where that white volume starts.
Okay.
But I think that the volume to the right, the climbing is full height, 1 story. The lobby volume, which is the street facing one, that is a vaulted space as well. And then the one that sits back, it's technically a 2-story volume. And so the second story starts just above the top of the sign.
So the only other similar example that I can think of was actually the Subaru dealership on Shelburne Street in Flynn. Parts of that building is 2 stories, but other parts is a single. And their wall signage is up near the top of the building, the top of the single story portion. So for what it's worth, we have that precedent to point to.
It's just interesting because like from the outside, you can't tell the difference. Like to me, I would look at the rows of windows and that looks like it's on the second floor, but we can.
When you look through the rows of windows, you'll see climbing walls. So the full 51 feet. So as you drive by or walk by or bike by, you can watch climbers.
That was it for me.
So, I mean, I find it. Caitlin, that's an interesting point. Is it just getting painted on the building?
It'll be a metal sign,
Cool.
slightly.
For what it's worth, mezzanine does not count as a floor. So if you have a 2-story space with a mezzanine, it's a 1-story building by code. So.
So it is
that's by
below
building
the
code,
second
not
floor.
zoning code.
We answer that question, Brad. Is it painted on or is it?
It's
It's a metal attached.
Just in reference, Scott, how would we deal with like literal wall art? Like if the Petra wasn't there and it was just the hand, the logo, like painted on the building? Would that even be considered a sign?
No, not if it's just the hand painted.
It was the hand with petroglyphs written on it though.
Right.
Then it becomes a sign.
So we do
I'll tell you about
the north elevation of the building facing City Market. During the design advisory board, you can see that elevation does have painted, they wanted something to
Yeah, I
activate
remember this.
that side.
Can we look at that side?
Yep, so it does
Yeah,
have
right there.
graphics.
I remember that.
Yeah, those are graphics and then plantings as well.
I remember we wanted to discuss that face. So that's the facade that faces City Market. There's actually plantings that go, so we're looking at it through.
Right.
Mhm.
What are the colors on that side?
Blue and
Top of the,
And then.
yeah, and then it's
the
like
design
a
just
mon-
shadow of it.
yeah,
a deeper.
What are we looking at?
Climber on the left dangling from a rope, on the right side, more of an alpine, meaning rope team.
Yeah.
Yep, and in the middle is yoga.
Got it.
So it's just meant to be like silhouette art of what it is we do. Cause even the windows at the top of that feature right there will really look at the back of the climbing wall. So they're not technically non-functional.
Yeah. Sean, you had some questions?
No, just be sure that you confirm that your corrective action plan for the contaminated soil is still valid.
Yep, and we just recently had new soil samples taken throughout the whole thing, and I don't know if that report is, the KS did that a couple weeks ago.
Any day, and the quantities and,
Just confirming everything that was before and anything that's changed and.
They've been working closely with the state to update. And we do have a brownfield grant waiting in the wings for the brownfield revitalization of the property.
Anybody in the audience here to speak on this application?
I think so, AJ.
Anything else from the board?
Just say I'm really happy to see this project moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Long
like I said,
struggle for you all.
yeah, somebody fell off a cliff and then COVID and.
It's a good choice.
here we are.
And here we are, exactly,
I'm
excited.
glad to see it back. I mean, by that lot every day, and I think we're all excited to see it get approved and understand the cutting rail for reasons we issued. All right, so I guess with that, we'll close the public hearing and we'll deliberate on it tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We have two other items sort of on our agenda. 750 Pine Street.
Yeah, the applicant online, AJ, Susan Nostran.
Hello.
Hi, Susan. So this was on our consent agenda item. This was recommended for consent approval, but didn't make it onto our consent agenda, Scott.
Right.
Any reason we should know about for that?
It's simply that when the agenda was set, I hadn't had enough time to look at this to see if it was a no-brainer or not.
Seems
The
to be
report, it
pretty
seems like it is.
Anybody on the board have any issues with treating this as consent? Susan, did you see the staff report on this?
Yes.
Do you have any issues with it that you need to discuss with us?
The staff report, did you say?
Yes.
Yes. Well, it sounded like there were no issues with the master plan for the 3 new businesses at 750 Pine, number 2.
That's right. Seems like the staff report approves it for consent approval. We ask applicants if they have any concerns in their correspondence with staff or any confusion. This one seems pretty simple, so I take your answer as a no. You're good to go?
Yes, we are. Yes, no. No, we are good to go.
Understood.
Yes,
Correct.
correct. I agree.
Yeah. Is there anyone online to speak on this application? Let's be heard.
If so, raise your hand. Nope, just have the applicant.
Anybody on the board who object to treating this as consent? Motion? Guess I'll do ZP on ZP 2431. I move that we approve the application and adopt staff's findings and recommendations. So Jeff seconds. All those in favor? Great. Okay, enjoy your signs.
Thank you very much.
And we have a request to defer. Scott?
Yep.
The applicant is okay with the deferral?
Yeah, the applicant is intending to and preparing to return to design advisory board. I believe it's April 9th.
Is the applicant online?
We don't have the applicant online. It looks like we have one neighbor online.
44 Wright Avenue.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And did the applicant ask when they wanted, so after the when should we?
Well, it's not a public hearing item, so it doesn't need to be recessed to a date and time certain. So I would just defer it pending DAB recommendation.
Anybody have an issue with that?
So moved.
All right, so move second. All those in favor? Great, deferred.
Okay, great.
Right, so with that, we've wrapped up our agenda and we'll close the public meeting.